Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, because the fans are happy. They're happy. The fans are happy because
and they should be.
They should be. They should be.
He's out.
He's out.
They should be.
Yeah.
They should be. I mean, you know, as I wrote, he's going to go down as the most despicable owner and despised owner in franchise history, which is saying a lot. Consider one of the patriarchs of that franchise was George Preston Marshall, who was so racist he wouldn't integrate the team until the federal government said, we won't let you play in our stadium unless you integrate the team. So it's a good thing that he's gone. Here's the thing that doesn't sit well with me about this whole situation is that the women who are most responsible for Dan Snyder being out have never gotten the closure that they want in this situation in terms of the first investigation that was done by Beth Wilkinson. That report, Roger Goodell decided or when it entered into an agreement with the Commanders and with Snyder that report would not be released publicly unless Snyder agreed to it. And we know he was never going to agree to that. So for these women who laid it all on the line, who risk, you know, public scrutiny, who risk financial loss, all of these different things, all they want is for that report to be public. And that has not happened. And so therefore, they cannot celebrate this moment to the same level that fans are and other followers of the franchise.
Yeah.
What's sad is I remember working when Beth Wilkinson's reports went out. I remember working for the Miami Dolphins and I was a coordinator. So all I was doing was appearances with the dance team. And I remember this being a conversation point amongst the dance team, talking about those trips with the sponsors and the partners and how the women at the then Redskins were being treated. And then going now, having coworkers from the Miami Dolphins who have now gone on to work for the Commanders and worked throughout the NFL, and them talking about what the front office experience has been like. They do have a very long way to go. Whether this report gets out or not, whether those things are released or not, the problem is the action that is taken afterwards, right? And that is what Josh Harris is going to now have to clean up, is even if that the day comes that they can get that report out, what are they going to do to clean up the mess and the culture that has been left as a permeating stain on the Commanders? And the fact of the matter is, there's no amount of ticket sales that you can sell to make up for that culture within the front office, both on the football side and the HQ side or the business side. So that, I think, is a really big question I have as to how Josh Harris is going to come and clean it up. I know Magic Johnson had some comments around it this morning, or I think it was yesterday morning, around they're going to do everything they can to make it a great place to work. That's a PR question or PR answer if you needed one. But what are you actually going to do to help those women, help the people in the front office who are absolutely tired and burdened by this entire saga?
Yeah, my guess is probably not much, but we'll see. And I hope they do. And I mean, one of the ways that we'll know that is by hirings and terminations and who they bring in and what we see comes next, because the biggest way, like, to change culture, you have to also change, like, the people in leadership, right? And I mean, that happens on some level anyway when ownership changes, but in general, a culture change is not something easy to do. It's something that takes time. And so we'll see by the actions if they're really about it, you know, what they're saying.
Well,
so
I'll say this real quick. I think that the culture change started somewhat the last few years when Jason Wright came in as team president and then Ron Rivera as head coach. I think they have made some moves to try and change that culture. And now it will be incumbent on Josh Harris and that group to further those actions and create an environment that is conducive to respect for employees, respect for women, all those sorts of things. So I think that I think they are going to make that culture change. And you're right, it does take time. But Dan Snyder, I know that to some extent NFL owners are acting as if they are the noble ones here in terms of forcing him out. But let's not forget, they had an opportunity to vote him out earlier, and they chose not to vote him out. Instead, they pressured him to sell this team. So I'm not about to give them a pat on the back for this, especially when they're lining their pockets with a record franchise fee for North America. That's not okay to me. To me, I think these women who initially brought forth these claims are the real heroes here. And they deserve a lot of credit, and they deserve to be recognized for what they did in terms of changing the culture in Washington, getting Dan Snyder out of there, and standing up for what was right. Some of these women, at least one that I know of, turned down a major settlement agreement to stand on principle and to speak her truth to Beth Wilkinson. And that's why, in my opinion, I think these women have every right to say, we want this report to be public.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, sorry, go ahead, Nat.
No, I was going to say, well, I mean, this is why we have Jim Trotter, right?
Yeah.
This is why we have you to add to these conversations. I mean, I think one of the things, and it's probably like a low-key thing, but I know, Zena, you're always kind of interested in things like branding and marketing and things like that. But one of the things that they're saying is that like they're going to probably change the name again. And I actually think that's probably like an underrated but really important change that's going to happen to sort of like disconnect themselves from the previous era. So I was just curious your thoughts on that, Zena.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an overhaul, but you're right. There's a connection to the Commanders. Even though it's a new name, it's a new name that was supposed to be a shift from the old name, or a quick one, right? Like, how quickly did the Commanders of the name that come up? How were fans really involved with that? Were people excited about that? Right now, the Washington Commanders looks like a Band-Aid on the Redskins, right? And so I think changing the name, all of that, it's going to be an overhaul. Partners are going to have to get used to it. Fans are going to have to get used to it, all the above. But it will be a breath of fresh air, I think, for the DC community, all the Washington fans. I'm going to be very interested in how they go about this process this time. But the good news is that Josh Harris is a pro. This is going to be a mess for him to clean up, but he is a pro. Harris Blitzer, what they've done with the 76ers. I mean, this is a man that is known for carrying teams to glory in terms of turning them around. So I'm really excited for him. His hands are going to be busy. I hope the Magic Johnson, like, congratulations to Magic Johnson, by the way, becoming an owner. He has 4% of the team, not huge, but significant. I hope that dynamic doesn't become a distraction in all of this. But I really think that the name change, the culture change, all of these things are going to set them off on a better path.
Okay, I'm not even going to weigh in on this because I'm going to just let Jim close us out on this. But is that 4%? Because, I mean, Magic is here talking about, if we could get up his next tweet, he's talking about this is like he didn't say momentous. Let me not rephrase the man's word. But he just said like this is a big thing for the Black community.
Historic?
Yeah, historic.
Historic.
And I was like, is it historic for the Black community? It's historic, I guess, in terms of him being another Black owner in the NFL, and it's historic probably for Magic Johnson. But I didn't agree with that sentiment. But Jim, what do you think of Magic's 4% ownership?
Not a lot to be frank with you. Look, if you want to get me excited about Black ownership, then be the controlling owner, be the person who has the power to make decisions. Magic doesn't have that. This is no different for me than when Jay-Z was a part owner of the New Jersey Nets. Or I can look at Larry Fitzgerald being a part owner of the Phoenix Suns or whatever. It's great that there's limited partners who are minorities, but I want to see people who actually run franchises, who make the decisions. And off the top of my head, I can only think of 2 Blacks who have ever owned a major professional sports franchise. And they were both in the NBA, and that was both in Charlotte with Bob Johnson, followed by Michael Jordan there. So kudos to Magic, and he should be excited. But I believe he said some of the same things after he was a limited partner with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's get to a point where we have Black ownership in the league who are in a controlling position, in a decision-making position. And again, if we're going to talk historic, I can think of some Black women who are part of the Denver Broncos group in terms of ownership. And to me, that was more significant than Magic being part of the Washington Commanders. just being honest here.
Yeah.
Wow. Look, shout out to anyone who's a Black owner. I don't want to like minimize it, but I think Jim's point is important that we need to be in positions to make have decision
authority.
Authority,
Yeah,
and actually be able to make decisions, I think. So, Jim,
we shouldn't just be figureheads, right? We just don't want to be figureheads and talking heads. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm over
No, but that's what they do. They trot us out. Yeah, they trot us out and put us out front like we've really made progress, when in fact we haven't made any progress.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm over the symbolism and the performative stuff. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate you. We need you back on again more. We miss you.
You always bring the fire. Always bring some interesting knowledge.
My number hasn't changed.
You've been busy, man. You've been busy.
Number has
you in
not
Jamaica.
changed,
you got a new job. You got a lot going on, but football is close. So
I always have time for you ladies.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jim.
We'll be inviting you back soon. Bye.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.